This is Creative Banter. Student teaching is officially over, and with that comes the reality that I have more time on my hands than I've had in the past 6 years. Though this sounds great on paper, the mentality that Ben and I share of always having to do something can quickly make this a living nightmare. One way to cope is through health and fitness, something which I plan to take more seriously given the additional time. Still, one can only run for so long before the body begs you to stop. And when you have plenty of time but little to do, and are sat at home, unwarranted feelings of isolation tend to creep in. Let's dive right into this, shall we? Today recording in the closet because it's about 80 degrees outside. We have no AC going, and I closed the windows that are outside of the closet because I know my dad has plans to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
So I didn't want that to interfere with this. So
yeah, and we'll see how this setup progresses as we edge closer toward the summer months when we'll see how all that works out.
So far it's okay. I can feel the difference between last week and today of just the humidity that's in here with me. And it's all right, I'm okay. I'm good. We'll wait. We'll see. How's it going to go?
My home office where I record this, I have two and a half exterior walls in this room. And there's zero insulation in our house because it was built in the 50s. So I know that when we recorded in the past during the summer, it got to be a bit sweltering in here, especially since I can't run the AC, I can't really run the fans or anything. So I think that's a bit of a preview of how it'll be for you in the recording closet a little bit later on. But who knows? Maybe it'll make us more creative.
Yeah.
Or we'll want to take a nap either way.
Yeah, we're gonna transition over to. Do you know on YouTube he goes by the Naked Photographer?
The name is familiar.
His intro is great for his videos because it's just him in the darkroom. He does a lot of film photography kind of darkroom work, more technical side of videos. But his intro is him with a kitchen. What the hell do you call the things that the chefs wear?
Oh,
why am I blanking?
Chef's hat?
No, not the shit, not the hat.
Because that's what I'm picturing.
I'm the thing that covers your chest and your
apron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wears a darkroom apron, and then you see his front, see the apron and everything, and he looks normal, whatever, except shirtless. And he turns around and goes over to his enlarger, and you just see pixelated ass. This is great. So this is gonna be me recording in 2 months, not even 2 months. So now everybody who's listening to this gets a visual. So that's great.
So when you started talking about him and describing him, I was picturing the Muppet that is the chef. For some reason, my mind went there, and then he turned around and So
and then it's no longer Muppet, and you wish it was Muppet.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, and actually speaking of weather, I've been really every morning I get up, I check the weather forecast for the area that I will be visiting at some point here. And this will be my backpacking trip. I keep watching the weather, and I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past in one of the last episodes, but now there's still some more rain in the forecast, and usually by this time of year I would have already been done with a trip by now, but we still have more rain, more clouds in the forecast. So I'm just patiently waiting and hoping for that nice kind of after the storms, clear weather, but before the heat arrives kind of weather. Yeah. And I think it's starting to be on the horizon within the next, kind of at the end of this 10-day forecast. I think I'm starting to see that. But it's driving me crazy not really having a heck of a lot to do when I feel like I should really be productive right now. So I need to be productive, and it's it's kind of driving me crazy a little bit.
Sounds like you need an idea for another ebook, something to keep your mind going.
Yeah. Those are definitely good ones for the summer months. But I think also like right now, like I'm also a little bit brain dead, which isn't really a very good combination. And
no, I feel that though.
Yeah, where it's like I have the time to work on something, but I just can't I can't really focus my thoughts in a way that I really need to. And I think it's also because since the weather's been good, I've been going skating a lot. I think I've been just pushing myself too hard where my body is just drained and it just rebels at a certain point. It's like, you're going to stay in bed. You're not going to exercise today. And so I think I need to just relax a little bit, which is tough. Yeah.
Believe me, I get that. I get it from my dad really bad in terms of like, so yesterday I came home from the gym and he was stacking wood in the woodshed because it's about that time of year to start cutting up wood for the winter and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him if he needed any help because I didn't have anything else going on. So he was like, yeah, if you don't mind. And I was thinking about going out for a motorcycle ride because it's nice out, but I didn't. He called over at my uncle to see if he was going to be around, just some place to ride to and then whatever, like hang out for a bit and then come back. But he was busy mowing the lawn, so my dad didn't want to be bored. So he just needed something to do and started working on the wood shed. Just one of those mindsets of like constantly having to do something. I got that from him and it's terrible.
Yeah. It could be a blessing and a curse. Yeah.
Especially in this like success driven hustle culture that we live in, like this grind culture. It's so difficult to try and balance that and to figure out like, okay, Sunday, I can sit back, I can relax. I don't need to do anything. Like most of the nights during student teaching, I really didn't need to do anything, but I still felt as though I should be doing something.
Yeah.
And then when you relax and you're in that mindset all the time, you get like depressed or anxious when you decided to watch a bunch of YouTube videos and waste a couple hours because you feel that it's a waste of a couple hours, that you should have been doing something else, but you don't have the mental capacity, the mental energy to do that. And that's been like my experience the past 3 months, 4 months of student teaching, whatever it's been.
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird coming off of that, like this weekend and for at least a couple of days of next week, depending on how it goes with getting jobs for substitute teaching and all. And just having those days where I'm just sitting at home again with literally no responsibilities for the first time in 6 years.
Yeah. I mean, like if I think back to when I was working full time at the shop, I don't think I ever really had that same sense of I need to always be doing something. Because I think I could just, I'm done with work. I just kind of like go from work mode to home mode. And I think I was always, I'd go out on hikes and stuff like that, but I didn't have the same feeling of like sink or swim all the time. And which has got to be a byproduct of, social media and all that kind of stuff. But it's so like ingrained now. And it's
bad.
It is. And the other thing too is like like when I didn't even realize that I was just like physically burned out from the standpoint of I finally found out that I simply was not eating enough for the amount of exercise I was doing. And after about 3 or 4 days, it would really catch up with me, which is kind of what happens when I go on the photo trips. And so I started looking up like how much really should I be eating for the amount of like physical exercise I'm doing. I'm like, I need to sneak another meal and a half in there. I'm like way off and all that sort of stuff. So I was like forcing myself to eat like this really huge lunch today, which I know this will probably sound strange to some people that are listening to this. Like, oh, he's just, has to go eat more in order to work out more, but it's weird. It's almost like a curse. Like I have to like force myself to eat more. But I also know that that's what I need for the energy. Cause for me, the exercise is like, it brings me so much joy being able to go out and exercise and just, you feel so great afterwards. But I need
What kind of exercise are you doing besides like obviously the hikes and the skating that we talk about, and then over the summer months or warmer months doing like the rowing and all of that? Are you doing like any weightlifting in the gym or? I
am doing some weightlifting. Yes, I'm doing some weightlifting as well as doing the skating. And so for me, like a perfect day would be, working on whatever stuff I have around the house until maybe 2-3 o'clock or so. And then going to go skating, which in itself it's a really good workout.
Yeah, definitely.
But then after that, then I'll do some like weightlifting, and it's been great because I've been making progress on both fronts. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I've been neglecting getting enough fuel to make it all work.
And is that every day that you're doing this like workout training, whatever?
In a perfect world, I would love to, but I just can't. Like for me, if I go 3 days pretty heavy with it, then by like the fourth day, I'm just like, my body rebels.
Yeah, I was going to say like 5 days in a row of like, especially weightlifting. And then on top of that, heavy cardio is like terrible for your body. Like it's, I want to say terrible, but it's like you need those rest days in between, especially from weightlifting. Yeah. Like cardio is one thing, but weightlifting is your muscles, are physically being torn apart while you're lifting these weights. So, I mean, I've been doing, since student teaching, I've been going to the gym 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just to do like weightlifting. And then I'll do like I've been building back up on my running and all that. So I'm now running for just 1.5 miles, which isn't a ton, but it's building up that endurance again and taking it very slow because of my knee. Yeah.
And that first 1.5 miles of a longer run is always the hardest part of the run too.
Yeah. I get to.
So you're just getting the hardest part of the run.
Exactly. Yeah. I get to that like mile, right about 1 mile at this point now that I'm used to 1.5 miles. And then the last half is like, all right, I'm kind of like floating. Like I'm good here. And so once I ramp it back up, it'll be like first 1.25 miles or so. And then the rest will be floating or so, I hope, as I build up that endurance. But ideally, I'm right with you with that. Like, I would love to be exercising, weightlifting, and running like multiple times throughout the week, like more than I already am. I want to get to a point where I'm running each day like 3-4 miles a day because I want to train up just for the hell of it to do like marathons. And like, I love the thought of doing like these longer runs. Like, as crazy as it sounds, it wouldn't be too far out of my wheelhouse of ideas to say that I would love to do a 100-mile run, like one of those really insane, intense runs. That just sounds like
that's crazy.
So much fun to me.
When you see what people are able to do, and which just seems completely impossible. Yeah. But it's these feats that people are able to do is just absolutely amazing.
Have you read David Goggins' book, his first one?
No.
It's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It came out about 6 years ago now. 5 years ago now. Goggins is like this ultra marathon runner, like real heavy in the fitness world kind of deal. And this book goes through his journey of going from being like 300 pounds at super overweight, just really unmotivated in life, to joining the Marines, dropping a ton of weight, going through the like the Hell Week multiple times. I think he went through that training like 3 different times before he passed it. It took him a year, and it took him 1.5 years. The dude's mentality is just otherworldly. He pretty much went on this 100-mile run, finally got admitted into it, and was like severely injured, but was pushing himself through it all. Like, I think at one point during either the run or through Hell Week, or maybe both, I can't remember. It's been a while since I read the book, but he pretty much broke his shins and still
geez.
pushed his body to go through more and to endure that pain and like to keep going and just push through all of that, like crazy psychotic mentality, but super focused. And ever since reading that, like just the idea that we can push ourselves so much further than we usually do is just, it's crazy. The fact that someone could actually do that, even though it's not medically advisable, even though it's definitely not something that you should be doing. Yeah. But it's that having that idea of capability is fascinating. So
yeah, and when you hear stories like that and what people will do, it's like I just want to go skating each day. I mean, it's like it's not that big of a request, but after a while, it's like my body's like, take a nap. I'm like, no, I want to. Yeah.
The other thing that I would say with when it comes to that, like, I just listened to an interview with Gordo Byrn. He's got into fitness, was heavy into like ultra marathons, Ironmans, all that kind of deal. And he was being interviewed by Rich Roll, who is also like they had very parallel stories. And Gordo does a lot of blogging and writing about this fitness and about running and proper recovery. And he was saying how like back when he first started, it would be like 7 days of training, just nonstop, getting to that point where you are fatigued, but you're not so fatigued that you're going to burn out. And that's also why a lot of runners, a lot of ultra marathoners and high level athletes would eventually get to the point where they are just getting sick and can't do anything anymore. They're killing their bodies.
Yeah.
But then research came out of like this idea. Let me pull it up quick. Dynamic loading. There we go. So there came out this idea of dynamic loading, and I'll include a link to obviously his Substack there where he writes all these articles along with the article of dynamic loading and the interview itself. But it's this concept of dynamic loading. And I can't speak very much about the ideas of it, but essentially tracking your heart rate, tracking your body, and working with your body to figure out when is the best time to stop, like what your peak levels of endurance and training should be, and hitting those
before you start crossing into a different zone.
Exactly, hitting those peaks and not crossing over the yellow or red thresholds 5 days a week and taking 2 days off. And that is like, the more I look into this, the more I'm like, especially now that will have time to myself and like can actually really get into this, the idea of increasing my health and exercise levels and fitness is like, I'm getting antsy just thinking about being able to really take this seriously, which is weird for me as like, it's not like I was ever into sports. I was never into like athleticism.
Yeah, me neither.
But now with like the health issues that I've been facing in the past like 2 years or so, when it comes to like digestion and all of that stuff, it's one of those things where like I want to take my health and what I'm putting into my body and how I'm feeling my body and using it a lot more seriously, like moving forward.
Yeah.
So as always, a lot of plans, just need to implement the actions to it.
But the good thing is that now you have the time. So that'll be good.
Yeah. So working on that now that everything has calmed down with student teaching, going to be changing up my diet, changing up how I work out, moving forward on that. But
nice. Yeah.
In completely other opposite direction of news or topic discussions, my Rico has been going pretty well, I'd say.
Oh, nice. Nice. Have you taken it on any hikes or anything like that? Or
yeah. So I've done a couple hikes with it. I think it was the first weekend that I actually had it in hand. I went over to my cousin's for a board game night and took some photographs there. And we were all inside, like in the basement. So it was like artificial light with a little window of light as well. So I was at like very low shutter speeds with high ISO and wide open aperture. So you're talking like hand holding your camera at 1/10 of a second at ISO 5000.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty low.
Something like that. Like
yeah,
maybe it wasn't that high, but it was somewhere around there. And then like I think I had my aperture at around f4, so not quite wide open, but I wanted some depth, and it held up like insanely well because of the gyroscope within that around the sensor. You can hand hold that thing to like 1/5 of a second. It's crazy.
that's cool.
Yeah. So I was actually, no, I can do it less than that, even though, so this past Tuesday, I brought the camera into school with me. I was helping out. Remember that poem magazine project that I was working with my mentor teacher?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay. So as part of that, we were taking blurry headshots of the students who had written these poems to include in it, because the whole thing it's called Armchair Ghosts. And so we wanted to do like blurred faces, kind of like ghost faces kind of deal. I set up with a whiteboard when they came in and handheld at like 1/2 a second. And everything is like sharp except for the faces that were moving.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm like, I never thought that I would be able to hand hold a camera at 1/5 or at 1/2 a second of an exposure time and get sharp results. Like their shirts, like whatever details were around them, everything but their faces was sharp. I'm like,
that's
this
really
is crazy.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just an insane little camera, but I carry it with me almost every time that I go out somewhere. Like I go out to Barnes & Noble every weekend and I just have it in my pocket because it's small enough and it's just like having a second phone. So
yeah,
throw it in my pocket, and I don't use it as much as I would like to. Like I used to do a little bit of street photography when I was first getting started, just as a way to practice and everything. It's always felt weird to me, like to photograph.
For street photography?
Yeah, like street photography as a whole just felt very weird, like photographing people. But I walk around Barnes & Noble, I'm like just looking around at like people interacting or sitting down, reading a book, like at the coffee, drinking coffee, whatever. And I'm like, there are so many photographs here. And I have this little camera that's the size and like appearance almost of a phone.
Yeah, it's very unassuming.
Not making that connection.
Yeah.
Like I'm not making that connection of like my introversion, I guess to say, is just prohibiting me from doing that.
Yeah.
From taking out the camera and even like taking photos of my girlfriend, like as she's looking through books or whatever. It's weird. So it's a hurdle that I want to get over, because that way when I take the camera to Acadia, when I take it to out to Colorado, I can take those photographs in the moment and document that journey, whether it's just my family that I'm photographing or complete strangers or whatever. So
yeah, it takes a certain skill set for that. One that I do not have, it's just a matter of being very deliberate, being very quick, being very just kind of like disappearing into the background. And I think it's got to be a lot like, in some ways with like landscape photography, when you're just waiting for just like the right light, the right moment. But I think it's just a matter of recognizing and anticipating what's going to happen to some degree, and just being very creative in the moment. But yeah, I would also very much struggle even pulling the camera out in a situation like that, because I know I don't have what it takes for that. Some people are very good at that, but I definitely, that's not my wheelhouse for sure.
I think it all goes back to just my fear of confrontation. Like, and I really, really noticed this during student teaching. Like the idea of, I have such a fear around people confronting me or me confronting people about something.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm the same way.
I hate that interaction. I hate that negative interaction that happens of like, I'm at Barnes & Noble and I take a photograph of someone reading a magazine or whatever, and they happen to look over and catch me with the camera and say, "What are you doing?" And that instance of, well, what do I say?
Yeah. And they're going to assume the worst. I mean, they're going to think it's some like nefarious thing or something like that.
Especially if it like, you're in a public place like Barnes & Noble and you just so happen to see as a male I see a girl reading, and all of a sudden I take a photograph of this girl or woman reading, and it becomes a gendered thing of, oh, you're a creep with a camera.
Yeah.
And like that instant stereotype. So, and like I said, I noticed this when it came to student teaching, like this idea that I have kids like talking in the classroom or somewhat interrupting the quietness of our sustained silent reading time that we had every Tuesday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Just having to mentally prepare myself to go up to them, even as an authority figure, to go up to them and say, hey guys, I need you to quiet down. And even though I knew that they realistically weren't going to look at me and say, no, because I'm the one in authority and I have my mentor teacher at all times to back me up.
Yeah.
But it's that introduction of confrontation that is terrifying to me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Obviously going into teaching, I need to get rid of that. And I think a way to get rid of that would be to go through with this like semi-street photography, documenting what's happening around me kind of thing. But it's a matter of getting to that place. That's very difficult.
Yeah. For me, the thought of any situation like that makes me just want to run and hide.
Yeah, definitely.
Like even if I was paying cash for something and the cashier gives me the wrong change, I just keep walking. I'm like, I'm not going back. I don't care that they owe me $20. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't want to go back. So yes, I can very much relate, which is also probably why I have no real desire to teach workshops or anything like that. Because I think I'd have to like put myself into a different mindset when in reality, all I'm thinking in the back of my head is these people keep following me around. What do they want from me? Yes. So yes, that I do see how sort of exercising that part of you would probably be a good thing in terms of the path that you're going down and sort of learning all those skills and all that sort of stuff that I've managed to
avoid learning
at my current age, but it's working mostly well so far.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps not really having to interact with many people.
Exactly.
In your day to day. Yeah.
Yeah. Just cats and dogs and yeah. They typically listen.
How do you find that? Like, how do you find the experience of working at home and like not having much human interaction on like the day to day? Because does your wife work at home as well?
She did during the pandemic, but she's back at the office now. So she,
Okay.
and I was asking her the other day, and she was saying that basically her workplace is like before the pandemic, like nothing ever happened. So everything's completely back to normal and everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I do miss having some degree of interaction with coworkers, but for the most part, I don't. I do take Oliver over to the dog park, and so I'll see like a same sort of group of people most mornings, and we'll chat and stuff. That's generally all the socialization I really need. But I will say that without having as much contact with people as I did before, and this is something we've talked about a little bit in the past, but all the days melt together. So Saturday is no different than Friday is no different than Tuesday, and weeks go by very, very fast. And I think it's by having that interaction and seeing those changes with other people and whatever is going on in their life and such. I think by seeing that, it gives a bit more of a feeling for the passage of time and stuff, which we've talked about in the past. But that's been my biggest thing. I've debated at some point, like maybe volunteering somewhere or something. But even at that, there's times of the year where I'm very busy. Other times of the year, like during the late spring through the summer months, when I'm not very busy. And it probably would be good to, go to like an animal shelter and volunteer or something like that. But it might be a bit too much of a commitment for the time that I realistically have available for it.
I was curious what you were going to say with that, because I was listening to yet another podcast, this one, Deep Natter, with Jeffrey Storis and Sean Tucker. And their most recent episode, they were talking a bit about isolation that we find ourselves in, whether by choice of our own or by circumstance of work or whatever. Yeah. So like with Sean, he was saying about how he doesn't really have a lot of day-to-day interaction and the loneliness that comes with that, because the most interaction that he gets is if he goes out somewhere, like staying at home without having a partner, without having a significant other. It's difficult to feed off someone else's energy or to like keep your energy up, and like the difficulties that come with that reality. It just got me thinking about the whole ordeal. And they were saying that, like Jeffrey was saying, how he might start going down to a coffee shop and just making it like a public thing of, all right, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be down at this coffee shop, just hanging out doing work. Come down, chat, like just sit with me and do work. Do it as like a co-opting kind of situation. Yeah. Like
that's an interesting concept.
Just to like get energy and to feel less lonely, so you're not sitting in a house by yourself for 24 hours a day, or like 12 hours, 8 hours a day while you're waiting, in your case, for your wife to come home or whatever. Like, And then like as another option that Sean was saying was he was planning on or thinking about talking to someone else that he had been talking to or something, who lived nearby, and just, all right, today we're going to go to your house. We're going to work together, just be in the house together, like be in this general vicinity together, for the same reason as why so many writers go to coffee shops to start writing, because of having that interaction, that even as like just that feeling of not being isolated. And then tomorrow you'll come over to my house and we'll do the same thing, or like shared workspaces, like in tight-knit groups like that. So it's just something to think about.
And I think that for people that are at least a bit more extroverted, even if they're quite introverted, but if they're a bit more extroverted than I am, I know that they will sort of draw energy from being around other people. It'll energize them a little bit. I mean, I get a little bit of that, but not a lot. But I think I do, that feeling that they get from being around other people, I think I get from exercise, which is kind of my replacement for that. It gets whatever the brain chemicals going that is like, ooh, yeah, that was good. So I think that's why I'm a little bummed out in the fact that, I need to actually rest, because that's this kind of like, I'm getting rid of that good source of happy stuff.
Dopamine or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And the other thing too is since my wife works, it's a small office, but she works in the office all day. She comes home, and she's very much an introvert as well. And so as introverts, we usually like to have kind of like our own space to do stuff. And like, I'm always home. And so like I try to make sure that I can like, I'll go off on a trip, make sure to get her a weekend or two where she could just have her space, do her own thing, which is, what every sort of introverted person needs, really. And so I tried to make sure that she has some space. I get too much space, really. But yeah, it's a matter of finding balance. But yeah, I think I'm very much, I'm better suited for doing my own thing. I think going back to a situation where I'm working with a lot of people, I think would not be great for me. But always putting out there in terms of maybe some volunteering or something like that.
Yeah, I think volunteering is a great option for that. Even if you're just volunteering, like, all right, summer months, I'll start volunteering because I have nothing else to do. I don't have the responsibilities of going on trips and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's something that I would like to get more into. just volunteering when it comes to helping maintain hiking trails or something, because then I'm out in nature doing something that I love.
Yeah, it gives them more of a sense of purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. So volunteering is definitely an option. It's just going to be it'll be very interesting to see how this summer goes for me in terms of that isolation thing, because if I don't get a job and I just keep running with NPN and eventually take over everything or most of everything for Nature Visions, our online magazine that we're coming out with. I can hear my dad in the background now with the lawnmower. Wonderful.
Staying active. Got to stay active.
Yeah, it's a ride-on tractor though, so it's not really all that active. It's just sweating your ass off in 80-degree weather for 2 hours mowing the lawn.
But feeling productive.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
A lot of noise reduction for me.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting though if I don't get a job where I'm leaving the house and going off to do something, because my girlfriend is supposed to move in this summer with me. And she isn't planning on getting a job outside of teaching because it just isn't really necessary for her.
Yeah.
And so she's going to be home. I'll be home most of the time. And yeah, like that idea of being together, not only dealing with that relationship shift after 9 years of not living together. And on top of that, like how I'm still going to get work done if I can find my focus, or if I need to go out to like Barnes & Noble, to a coffee shop, or like Starbucks or whatever, somewhere other than the house, and say, all right, I'm going to leave for like 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever, each day. And I'm going to go to this place and I'm just going to write or get work done that I need to get done, and have that as my outside office. So always an option, but just something different.
I think it's a matter of finding balance, and
absolutely.
And that's something that, that I think will work out quite well in terms of just, figuring out what that balance is. One of the things in one of the past episodes, I had mentioned about how when I come back from my spring trip, I'll be buying a really good road bike. And one of the advantages of that is on the weekends, because my wife has traditional weekends, I could just like hop on the bike and go for a ride for a couple hours or whatever. And, two birds, one stone kind of a thing. And so it's always a matter of just trying to find that kind of balance. And the other thing that's really cool is that when my wife has time to just kind of do her own thing, she loves working on all these various projects. So like, restoring things. She was like repainting her car for a while. I mean, there's like all these things that she works on.
Yeah.
And which is amazing. And so it's a matter of making sure that she has enough time to kind of get into her zone and to work on those. And so I think that'll be one of the other advantages of, at some point when I am eventually able to go on the spring trip, getting the bike, so I can sort of get a little more exercise in, and as well as give her a little more time to work on some of those fun projects.
Like you said, exercise. That's our topic of today.
Yeah.
It's completely swallowed everything.
Exactly. One last thing. So I'm always looking ahead, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past in terms of future vehicles. I've been watching to kind of see what is coming out and what's available. And there's this list that I've had in terms of what I would love to have in a vehicle for going on my photo trips. And it has not existed until I finally found what I have in mind. And it's not that it's reasonable enough in price. But I want something that could fit in the garage, and I have only a 7-foot tall garage, so it's not very big. But I want to have something where I can go on my trips, where I have a nice clean indoor space where I can go into. I want it to be something that has, there's a bed in there, there's a kitchen with like a stove and a sink, a heater, a battery with solar power, a shower, and like a toilet in there.
Mhm.
And so up until recently, I have not found such a thing, but I did find there's this company in Indiana called Skinny Guy Campers. And they make this camper that goes in the back of a truck. So it could be like a mid-sized truck, like a Tacoma or like a Chevy Colorado or something. But it doesn't fit. It's not any taller.
I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, it's not any taller than the cab of the truck, so you can fit into a garage with it. And they have basically everything that one would need. There's also a refrigerator in there, and it pops open, like the lid kind of pops all the way open, and then there's a big canvas tent over the top of it. But it's got everything in there. And so I've been looking at those, and I'm like, yeah, I think this finally is something that sort of checks all those boxes, because one of the things I've been missing when I go on my trips is having that nice, clean indoor space where I can just relax. Not that I probably will, because I always have to be in motion. But or I can relax. Yeah. I can load film there on a rainy day. I can, if it's a cold winter trip, it's a winterized setup. So, and with Toyota coming out with a new Tacoma soon, with Chevy recently came out with a new Colorado, Ford's coming out with a new Ranger soon. None of which are electric. It just seems like it's not quite there yet for what I need. But it's pretty exciting to see stuff like this in the works, in terms of something like that. I think would be a pretty awesome setup. And so I'm just kind of waiting and hoping that something like that could at some point be in my future in the next couple of years or so. But they look pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Model 5.0 right now for the mid-sized trucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, that looks really sleek. Like even just how it is when it's all compacted.
Yeah, it's just a black box in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks really nice, even with that truck.
Yeah. So they're not the lightest thing, but it's those trucks can't take a lot of weight, but they're still within the range of what those trucks can handle. And the other nice thing is that I could take it off pretty easily and just have it, stored at home when, not actually on the truck. So have the truck is just like a daily driver sort of thing without having that on all the time. Yeah. But
the payload of a Tacoma, for at least a 2023 Tacoma, or 2022, whatever, is right about 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
1,000 to 1,700 pounds. So yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, you just have to be smart about all the other things that you carry to keep it all reasonable. But,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, but when I saw that, I'm like, now I have a long-term goal. Now I have something to aim for, and we'll see. But man, having something like that where I can have just that clean indoor space, and also be great for like going on trips with my wife, where we can be off in the middle of nowhere but still have like the kitchen and everything. And so
yeah. What do those run price-wise?
I think they're starting around the $20,000 range with nothing really too much in them. And then if you really load them up, they're in like the, I think, low mid 30s. So they cost about as much as a vehicle. But when you consider what they have, and also if you compare it to the price of like some of those like Sprinter vans that can be like a couple $100,000, which is insane, and won't fit in a garage.
Right.
So,
yeah. Definitely.
But I always have to have those carrots to dangle ahead of me, in terms of like, gives me a reason to work really hard and to think about whatever it is down the line. And also, since my 4Runner is a 2014, and so I usually keep cars about 10 years. So
yeah, it's getting there.
It's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to see towards the end of this year, when you come out with your box set, you're going to come out with like 3 special editions of it.
Yes.
You'll come out with an 8x10 version, the normal, and then rack up your prices for that one. And then you'll have an 11x14 one. That's like an addition of like 25 or 50. And then a 16 by 20, that's an addition of 5.
I chose the wrong profession.
$1,200.
Definitely chose the wrong profession. This is, I don't know if the math will work out, but we shall see. I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, codyschultz.com. And you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.